Oh, and good evening. It's May 13th, 2025, and we're continuing our discussion collection and our Outside the Class series. This series, from the Bible Project, covers the entire TaNaK, right? The Old Testament. Those source videos are set up for your review on TheDustyFeet.com in that Outside the Class section. Because the intent of Outside the Class is for you to listen to that in-class lecture first. Because we just try to keep these to about 15 minutes. Make them easy to catch up on. So we're on a quest, scroll by scroll, book by book, a journey through this collection, but maybe with a fun and different twist. Our hope with the Dusty Feed is to foster discussion and help build and support communities. If you are not already connected to a community or just want to share and interact, this community has 4 primary ways to interact. 1. DustyFeet.com. That's our primary place to find everything. You are always free to comment. 2. Facebook, at the Dusty Feet. These videos and other videos are also available for comment and discussion. And 3. We have a Discord channel. The invite link is there below. Be vocal, be written, be loving. And 4, and as always, you are welcome to send an email to bob@thedustyfeet.com. These places, they will be moderated, and guidelines will be set to ensure healthy, safe discussion. And as always on the Dusty Feet, this is a place where we can safely explore the endless ways of God and the interconnection of His creation. Belief understandings may be challenged, divine misunderstandings may exist, and traditional teachings might falter as we pursue connection, context, and community with God and each other here in an environment of grace and love. And of course, before we forget, if you find these kinds of podcasts useful, it is when you click that subscribe button. Those reminders, they just help you. But also, if you think these might be useful to other people, that is when you click that like button, because that is the way that YouTube chooses to share these to more people if they wish. So in this series, we're going to cover the entire TaNaK, right? The entire Old Testament in the Hebrew Scriptures order. It's the original order of this collection. We need to remember the videos that we're going to be discussing, they're just the tip of an iceberg. They are part of a learning series that I highly recommend, and they can all be found on the Bible Project website. Because we're going to ask many questions about all kinds of things. Answers? We'll see. Samuel, first scroll, part 4. We're on part 4, right? So one of the things that I enjoyed about Scripture, it's probably a weird thing to think about, is that many of the stories really are so foreign to us. Our minds scramble to create images that would give us some way to grapple with what we think we're reading in the story. Yeah. So this particular scroll, right? These stories in Samuel, they have to be one of those where we probably don't have some of the mental imagery that we think we might have when we think about the stories. And that's in this story, meaning it's like, for instance, there's a subplot to what's happening. Because what happens is, as we mentioned in the previous episodes, the children of Israel are deciding to use God as a talisman. Because remember, God said, I don't want any graven or carved images to represent me. I mean, this is a story about making graven images to represent God back at the base of Mount Sinai. We recall that as the golden calf incident. But it's not about a foreign God. It's about assigning God to an image. Yeah. So there's probably really only one thing that you would assign to God. That would be the Ark of the Covenant. So probably in some of our minds today, we'd be going, I can't believe they even thought about doing this, that it entered rational thought. And then they did it. Yeah, I don't think it's so foreign a thought because if we just look back on our own history, right, post Messiah, we see many things done in the name of God, for God, declaring God's on our side, crosses carried along the way. I think maybe those belong in this folder too. So here we're going to discuss a part of the story that contains imagery and words that current context might struggle to fill in the gaps as we roll through the rest of these series, that we might have challenges visualizing and understanding. But let's remember when and where we are. Let's get us some context. We're in the land with Samuel. And the people of Israel know, as they've all been told, right, that Samuel is now a prophet of God. Yeah. Samuel is now one of what we would call judges. So again, there's another people group brought into the spotlight. The Philistines are back. Probably more accurate to say they never really left. But now aggression is really back on the table. And then we have these descendants of the people who made the declaration at the base of Mount Sinai that they would follow God. It's been so far down the path. Things have gotten so messed up. Even with all the judges they've seen up to this point, because they have not turned from making God, Yod-He, Vav-He, their only God. They've polluted God's worship, entertained other gods. And then in chapter 4, the Philistines are up. They're up near Ebenezer, right? That's a city, not Scrooge. And they've come to do battle. They engage in battle. The Israelites lose. They lose about 4,000 men. And I love when we see in a story, we get words in it, right? Things that make us think, like in 1 Samuel chapter 4, verse 3. When the people came into the camp, and the elders of Israel said, "Why has the Lord defeated us today before the Philistines?" So let us take from Shiloh the ark of the covenant of the Lord, that it may come along and deliver us from the power of our enemies. So there's that quick side note thought to discuss amongst yourselves in the verse. How did the children of Israel lose? Because we get that little subline in there, again, to make us think. Why has the Lord defeated us today? More to chew on. But those people who had fought in that battle, they lost. They returned to the camp, and they shared their stories with the Israelite elders. Elders, they guide, they lead groups of people to do and live in specific ways. They also probably handle minor judicial issues, the everyday things that happen within any community. But in this mix, these elders devise an idea to go up to Shiloh, like we just read, get the ark, bring it back, and use it as a talisman. They're going to bring out the ark, wave it in front, and say, "Our God is with us." So we get further along in the story. It's going to come out that the Philistines, they're actually aware of the stories tied to these children of Israel, right? They're very aware of the rescue, the exodus, right, from Egypt. They don't doubt it. They're aware of it, right? They're not doubting it. They're just figuring out how to deal with it. Because as it all begins to unfold, we get this play out also in here as the story rolls out, that there's also a promise that God gave to Samuel, a word that he gave to Samuel that was passed on because Eli made sure that he heard the word that God had given to Samuel. And now we're going to have that also play out before our very eyes. Because two of those individuals, well, they're going to come waltzing into the scene. 1 Samuel 4:4. So the people sent to Shiloh, and from there they carried the ark of the covenant of the Lord of hosts, who sits above the cherubim, and the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the ark of God. Remember, I said that the Philistines were very much aware of the stories surrounding the God of Israel. As the ark of the covenant of the Lord came into the camp, all of Israel shouted with a great shout, so that the earth resounded, right? When the Philistines heard the noise of the shout, they said, "What does the noise of this great shout in the camp of the Hebrews mean?" Then they understood that the ark of the Lord had come into the camp. The Philistines, they were afraid. So they said, "God has come into the camp." And they said, "Woe to us, for nothing like this has happened before. Woe to us! Who shall deliver us from the hand of these mighty gods? These are the gods who smote the Egyptians with all kinds of plagues in the wilderness. But take courage. Be men, O Philistines, or you will become slaves to the Hebrews, for they have been slaves to you. Therefore, be men, fight." Yeah, I did say that they remembered who this God was supposed to be, yet they're mistaken, also believing there were gods, not just one God. So they'd heard the story, and yet, as we see, maybe it hadn't been passed down accurately. Not surprised there. We still do that very same thing today. And yet, some of the sting's been taken out of that just by the fact that we've seen the stories before that's shown that maybe, in their opinion, these gods or this God might not be as strong as we think they are, right? So they still choose to go to battle. So the Philistines fought, Israel was defeated, every man fled to his tent, and the slaughter was very great. For there fell of Israel 30,000 foot soldiers. And the ark of the Lord was taken, and the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, died. Yeah. So how'd they lose the battle? God was on their side, right? They even brought him to the front. 30,000 men died. The ark's taken. And by the way, 2/3 of God's promise is fulfilled in that. So we have a runner from the battle. Those are those messengers relaying information back and forth. He runs to Shiloh. He goes to Eli. Eli's sitting in a chair by the gate road, waiting for the triumphant return of the ark. But Eli, at this point, is obviously no spring chicken. I mean, the previous stories show that his eyesight was growing dim by this time. And by the time we hear this, he's 98 years old. And for all practical purposes, he has no sight at all. But he pleads with the messenger to tell the story, just as he did with Samuel. So Eli hears the whole story. Then the one who brought the news replied, "Israel has fled before the Philistines. There was also a great slaughter amongst the people, and your two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead, and the ark of the covenant has been taken." When he mentioned the ark of God, Eli fell off the seat backwards against the gate. His neck was broken, and he died, for he was old and heavy. Thus he judged Israel 40 years. So now in this story, it's being lived at this time. We get a chance to see God's promises play out, sometimes the way we expect them, sometimes not. But even in this, there's a sub-story in here. There's a little sub-story about the wife of one of his sons. And this poor boy, he gets named Ichabod. Not Ichabod Crane, just Ichabod. But why? And she called the boy Ichabod, saying, "The glory has departed from Israel, because the ark of the God's been taken, and because of her father-in-law and her husband." Remember, lineage, legacy, remembrance. And this poor lad gets named for a tragedy. It's kind of hard to grasp. And he's named for a reminder of this, his name for the rest of his days. There's more to ponder there. But this is by no means the only time we get this in Scripture, right? It happens for better and for worse, more often probably than we actually consciously realize. And oh, and the first time, well, just go back to Genesis, right? Eve and the boys. Yeah, it's there. So Eli's dead. His boys are dead. The lineage of Eli will be no more. It's an interesting story with Eli because we watched him from that initial introduction, right? As we see the heartbreaking yearning of a woman to have children. Eli's part of that. He raises Samuel. Then we watch him to his death. His life is like a series of ups and downs, and God merely says, you have choices. You make choices. You had an opportunity. One can say probably not the best choice, but he had a chance to teach his kids something different. Consequences. So, as we transition to next week, I'm going to start this by us maybe putting a marker in our Bible right here. Put a little piece of paper, page marker, ribbon, something. Because we're going to get to it next week, but we're also probably going to need to come back here again a bit into the future. But this will be very important for us to talk about. So thanks for being with us tonight with another discussion series episode of Outside the Class, the Scroll of Samuel on the Dusty Feet.